Welcome to the second season of Mompreneurs, where we celebrate and learn from fabulous Black women who are out here killing it as moms-in-chief, running both their households and their businesses. I'm your host, nancyredd, and I come from a lovely lineage of Black mompreneurs in Southern Virginia. I'm thrilled to present this intimate interview series that highlights inspiring and educational stories about how women are creating incredible opportunities and generational wealth for their families. But money isn't all this series is about. Balancing motherhood, mental health, and happiness is really important too, and my next guest is all about that. Vada Love Thomas puts the mom in Mompreneurs. With 5 kids in her family between her and her amazing husband, and with both of their mothers living in their gorgeous home, there are a lot of people that Vada is keeping organized, happy, and healthy, all while being her songwriter and producer husband's business manager, a momager, and also running a January Love, which is an Atlanta-based Black female-owned children's boutique offering high-quality and stylish clothing and toys for the modern family. Whew, that's a mouthful. Welcome, Vada. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
So excited. You crack me up, first and foremost, because of all of the people I've interviewed, all of the mompreneurs, your LinkedIn is the funniest.
What does it say? I made that so long ago.
Your LinkedIn literally just says Homemaker. And that does not cut it, sister, because you've been your husband's business manager for over 10 years. You are managing your youngest's career as a musician. You have your own boutique. I mean, wouldn't you say you are a lot more than a homemaker?
Definitely yes, but I'm like usually always like more comfortable behind the scenes. So I'm like, I don't need all these people in my business, but and I did everything from home. So I'm like, you know.
Well, isn't that the fun part about being a mompreneur? Because the flexibility and the freedom really do help you with your goals. Because you and I have something in common in that not only are you an entrepreneur and a mother, but you're also a homeschooler.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So right now we homeschool our youngest 2 boys. Well, not we, really I homeschool our youngest 2 boys. But the school that they are at is like a hybrid school, and they go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 to 12:30. So they go there to at least get like their core classes together. But then I still like have to fill in all the other blanks, do all of everything else. But once I opened up the boutique, it just made it a little bit easier so they wouldn't get behind or have to wait on me all the time.
And that's the fun thing, because before you dabbled in entrepreneurship,
yes.
right? Like you've always like had a little hustle going on.
Yes, always.
But that was when you were full-time homeschooling. There was no hybrid option. And then we had the pandemic.
Yes, and the pandemic is what drove us to like, okay, let you all get around other children at least sometimes, because being locked up with everyone all day, every day, like at the end of the pandemic, my kids and myself as well were like, oh, we need a break from each other. We need a break.
Well, you've got a break, and you've got a lot of businesses going on.
Yes.
But what's interesting is you started being an entrepreneur at the exact same time you started being a mother, which I see that happen a lot. It's like having the baby pushes you into a space that you feel more responsible for being part of creating generational wealth for your family.
Yeah, it was like more of a necessity of how it happened. Like my husband at that time had made like a ton of money. And like literally it was all gone before we even had our first child. Like we went to Babies R Us, which isn't, I would think Babies R Us are out anymore. So we went there like while I was pregnant, and we tried to swipe our debit card to get a car seat, and it was like declined. And we're like, what in the world? Luckily then I was still working like with him. I worked until like after my due date.
What were you doing at that point?
I was a dental assistant at that time.
Okay, so let's talk. So 17 years ago, you meet your husband.
Yes.
You get married 14 years ago.
Yes.
You're expecting your first child. In this period of time, he went from, you said he was in an apartment and couldn't drive.
Yeah, so I was expecting our first child, yes, together. When I met him, he could not drive. He was like in this little raggedy apartment off of Roswell Road. And I met him through my best friend. So she was like, oh, this guy, he wants to meet you. He wants to meet some of my friends. And I'm like, oh, you can handle him. So I met him like within like the first hour of meeting him. He was like, you're going to be my wife. And I was like, no, I'm not. I don't even like you. So anyway, fast forward, I end up liking him. Hence, we got to, he signed a deal like shortly after we got together. But that was like an artistry deal because he wanted to be an artist at first. Well, you know, you get that lump sum of money with like no prior financial education, and that $1 million was gone like as quickly as it came.
And where were you in this motherhood stage? The $1 million was gone, but a baby was on the way.
Yes. And where was I at? I was like, oh, we got to figure something out because what am I going to do after I have this baby?
Can't be a dental hygienist.
I can't be working like with the, you know, we need that 6 weeks away. So luckily we, you know, all of the money wasn't gone, but it was just enough to like continue paying our bills. So at that point we were like, you know what? Forget this. He made the executive decision, like, you're good with money because, you know, I've always been able to like save my money and do what I needed to do. So he was like, you know what? You're going to be my business manager. So we called our old business manager out in California, fired him, and the rest is history. So I do all the investments, the payroll, anything that we need to do to keep our businesses growing and thriving. Yeah.
And this was 14 years ago. So you're doing all this. You've never done this before.
Never.
You don't know what you just happen to be really smart
and I
read
a
hustler.
Every book I could find at Barnes & Nobles.
So you've got this baby on your hip, and you're doing payroll and everything. What's going through your head?
Oh, I'm going to survive. We're going to make it out, and we're going to get back to where we were for that small moment in time. So that was it. I can't be homeless with children.
And so I think that's like everybody's T-shirt. I can't be homeless with children. Because that's the thing. When you get these children, it's not just about you anymore, right?
At all. And then, you know, in especially like my perspective, I can't rely on my family to help me or to just give to me all the time because I decided to have children. Like, it's not their burden, not for them to figure out. So with this man that I have these children with, we're going to figure this out. And we did.
And you have. And so with that, when you're looking at it, many people, when you call yourself a homemaker, and that's a super important job, it's really when you have a partner who's an entrepreneur, you're pretty much along for the ride if you're a good partner, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And so like why I did choose Homemaker on like my LinkedIn and why I still consider myself like, you know, a homemaker is because first and foremost, my home being a place for my kids to retreat, my husband to retreat is the number one most important thing. Like, we can get everything we want in this world, but if, like, our home isn't in a healthy, happy state, like, nothing else matters, at least to me.
Where did you learn that? Who taught you those types of skills? Because, I mean, for me, I grew up, my father passed away when I was very young, so I grew up in a single mom household. Learning how to be a wife and how to be a homemaker was a journey.
Yeah. I mean, it was for me as well. I can't say that I just had, like, the great examples, but I knew what I wanted in my life. I mean, my grandparents are like the only example that I had. They were together from 15 years old until my grandfather died at 70 plus. My husband's parents were together for his whole entire life until his father passed in 2020. So I think we, at least those two, like, couples, we got to see like a healthy, happy relationship. And my husband and I just know what we wanted in our life with each other, because we both had our prior relationships that didn't work out, and we weren't going to like repeat that again.
I think that's really important. And so when you have the difficult times, when you're at Babies R Us and the card has been declined, were you certain that you'd be able to get to where you are now, which is ridiculously successful, very, very productive? For people who are listening who don't know, talk to us about that journey and who you all have become together.
Okay, so being there at Babies R Us, embarrassed and having to walk away with our strolling car seat still there, we just always believed in each other. Like, my husband is like one of the hardest working people that I have ever met in life, and he always says I'm one of the smartest people. So with a team like that, we can't do anything but win. And so we just poured into each other, and over the years, whenever we like take new chances or make new investments, we just always pour into each other, and our communication is always open. So it's always like, look, you can't spend no more over here, or we need to fly here to figure out this investment. Like, our communication is like number one for us, in our belief in each other, in ourselves individually, it's like, I feel like we're going to keep doing well.
And see, as a business manager, do you get the final say on everything? Are you the top person in this relationship?
No, and I feel like I should be, because I put in all the work and all the education on learning how to, keep this boat floating. But so he will sneak sometimes, and if he really believes in something, and I'm like, no, our budget cannot include that right now. He's like, well, I really believe in it. And so,
what's an example of something where he went off the rails, but in reality it was an excellent decision?
Just about everything. So, like, a specific example could be he wants to work with a new artist, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't feel like at this point we need to be like putting the upfront money for the hotels and the traveling for this new artist. Like, no one knows this artist. And he's like, oh no, I believe in this artist. And he goes forth and does it anyway. And that is how he won his Grammy with Lizzo.
That's incredible. So you did not believe in Lizzo at first?
No, I don't know if we're going to need to cut this out. I don't believe in a lot of the artists at first.
What do you think? And so that's an interesting thing when it comes to a partnership in business. It's interesting because the creative person, like you said, often doesn't have the financial sense, but the part of your brain that has the financial sense is not the risk taker.
No, yeah, I'm not the risk taker of our relationship at all.
So it's good that you have a connection,
yes,
where these things go together and you have a mutual respect.
Yes, definitely yin and yang, because I'm more like logical and he's more like, oh no, I believe in this. I can make it like this and you'll see the end result. And I'm like, well, according to prior statistics, this ain't gonna work out.
But statistics don't make you millions of dollars. Statistics
no, they don't.
Keep you going on like a 5 to 7% annual return.
Which has helped us out a lot as well.
Yes, so it's the combination.
Yes. So
I want to actually start talking about your specific bets on yourself in a second, but I just realized for people who don't know, talk to us. Who is your husband? Because I realize we're just talking about him like everyone knows who he is.
So my husband is Theron Thomas, singer, songwriter, Grammy Award winning, amazing husband to me and father to our 5 children.
It's incredible. And also in your household during the pandemic, you had a lot of life shifts. So you have a whole bunch of success. You have a gorgeous home, and then new characters are introduced due to life circumstances.
Yes. So in 2020, we lost both my father and his father. So my father passed in May of 2020, and his father passed September of 2020, which in return, since I said my mother-in-law and father-in-law were together from teenagers, that caused her to have to move in with us. And my mother moved in with us as well in that same year. We had to leave our gorgeous home that I just love so much and move into a bigger home, which I still love, and it's just as pretty. So we had to now learn how to live not only as a family of 7, but a family of 9.
That's a
with
huge
different
shift.
Personalities.
And with different priorities, and first and foremost, my condolences.
Thank you.
Because the pandemic was a lot for all of us, and many of us lost people.
Yes. And
out of the ashes, your family seems to have really done a good job of creating a phoenix of an experience.
Yes. So, and that losing my father is definitely what led to my children's boutique and me naming it A January Love in honor of my father.
Because up until now, you either were, your mompreneurship was out of necessity. You had to
Yes.
fire the business manager that wasn't doing a good job. The same year you had a baby, you lost $1 million. You had to get in there, get in Barnes & Noble, read these books, figure this out, be the level-headed one. And then your father passes away. And he leaves behind not just the gift of having been your father, but also an inheritance.
Yes, exactly. And he also gave me the knowledge of an entrepreneur, because my father and my grandfather were always entrepreneurs as well. So my father's business, as I was growing up, was named after me, A&L. And so then I'm like, well, what better way of honoring my father. And then, I know he left me that inheritance to do something for me. Because, like, me and my dad talked all the time. And he always knew, like, one of my fears of being a stay-at-home mom or mompreneur, well, everything focusing around my children, my main thing was, like, what am I going to do when my kids grow up or they, like, gain that independence, which happened during the pandemic when my children requested at least to, have some type of outside
They'd had
schooling.
enough of mom.
Yeah, they had enough of me. They were now at the age where it was like, well, I want to be around other people. I want to see other kids more often than just our play dates. They wanted to, have the feeling of a school culture setting, but that only came because they were growing older. Mm-hmm. And so that was, like, really scary for me. Like, oh, well, once my kids will leave. Like, right now we have 2 in college and 1 that's graduating this year to go to college. So it's like reality hits, like, wait, they are going to leave really soon. What am I going to do to fill my time? My personality, I like to do stuff around the clock. Like, I'm not a sit in the bed, and that's not me.
You're not going to go play tennis with the girls?
Definitely not doing that. I'll drink with the girls, but we're not playing tennis.
You're going to talk your business plan. And it's such an interesting gift for you, though, because at the exact same time that people are flying the coop, your youngest, 10, is ready to go, you've got this gift. Because one of the things about who you are before the boutique as a mompreneur is managing the family money is very different than having your own. Did you?
Yes, and so that's why.
Speak to that. Like, what was the difference between, because you didn't want to take a risk on the artist because that was like, your family money, but what was different about the gift your father left you, making you feel comfortable being a mompreneur for yourself?
Just knowing that my father believed in me enough to say, look, I feel like he left it for me to bank on myself. Like, I feel my father knew me, like, better than most people know me. And he knows, like, I'm not a risk taker, but this isn't money that I had to earn. And if I was to mess up this money by taking a chance on myself, it didn't come from our pockets. Like, this came from a gift that my father left. And with that being said, if my father left me something, I'm about to do everything I can to make this worth it. Like, and so that's what made it easier for me to say, oh, no, I'm going to use this money and I'm going to start something. And every day looking at a January Love, I know I have to keep it going. I know there ain't no failing.
There's no failing. Well, it seems like it's going great. When you're looking at the things that you could have, how long did it take for you to come up with the idea for a January Love? A children's boutique, you're in the middle of a pandemic. It's crazy times. Life is changing for you. You got all these people in your house now. You're starting homeschool. Your father and your husband's father have passed away. How did you land on a children's boutique? What were the ideas that you cycled through before deciding upon a January Love?
So, I've always dabbled and dabbled in a lot of things. And so when
Airbnb?
Yep. Etsy, selling downloadables.
I, too, have been in the printables experience. It's a lot of work.
It is, but the downloadables are so easy because once you create that file.
It's true.
They just click on it and
it's passive income.
Yes, it's passive. I just wait for PayPal to say, ding. That was great. Airbnb was way more work for me. So now I just changed those properties into rental properties because having long-term rental,
it's a different game now.
Yeah, Airbnbs, I went through too much.
The children's boutique, how did you decide to use your father's inheritance for that specifically?
Okay, so that story I did not initially say I'm going to start my own A January's Love boutique. I was quarantined with my 10-year-old because we had COVID, and I was like, let me go find a business to buy. So I knew I wanted to buy a business.
Instead of starting one up from the ground.
Yeah, instead of starting one from my own.
Yeah. Because there's a whole layer of work, and you have to look at the ROI, and you're in a position to be able to pay for that difficult work.
Yes, yes, the name is already out there. The brand has already been accepted by consumers. So that's why initially I said, I'm just going to buy a business that's already up and running. Well, found a business, got a lawyer, and she could not provide me her correct financials. So I had to walk away from that. But that was a baby business as well. So after doing all the research that I did for that business and the months that it took before I walked away, I said, well, I've done all this research and I know so much about this industry. I'm just going to start my own. And that is like how I started the January Love business.
It's amazing. So you tried to buy the business, but you realized, so another problem is when you are buying something that exists, you are also dealing with the existing problems.
Yes. And she could not provide, buying a business is very important to get all of that information about like how was that business performing, like the real numbers, not just what the prior owner is telling you. So she couldn't provide what I need to see. I need to see black and white before I put my money into something, and she couldn't provide that for me.
But you knew that it was going to be a lot of work to open up a children's boutique. So how did you broach this with your family?
I'm opening up a boutique, and y'all gonna have to help me. And
I'll help you with all this other stuff.
Yeah,
you're gonna help me with this boutique.
You're gonna help me. So I put my kids to work. I even had my husband in there building shelves up with me. My youngest two work on Friday and Saturday at the shop. And so we just made it another family affair. Like I feel like with children, if you make something fun or worthwhile, they'll be ready to join. And then it's just another firsthand experience for them to go through. Like they see why I'm away, or, all the sacrifices they get to kind of be a part of. So I feel like it's just another learning experience for them.
So this whole process takes a couple of years. In 2020, your father passes away. You think you're going to buy this other business. That falls apart. So then you decide to open up your own and call it a January Love. And at this point, it's 2022. And here we are. Walk us through the first few months of having a boutique, because we're just coming out of a pandemic. People are just getting back to in-store shopping. Was it what you anticipated?
No, when you have so many followers on Instagram, or people that's always engaging, or people that's always like,
I support you and all you do. And you're like, throw some coin at my baby store.
And it's like crickets.
Well, see, likes are free.
Exactly.
But and handmade slingshots are $25.
Exactly. and them asking me questions to help out with their personal life, and my answers are free to them. And so, and I thought like, oh, I'm doing this. It's like a diverse boutique. I'm a black woman. I'm going to have like black people just show out in droves. And it's like.
So one thing that's very interesting, when people say I'm starting up a boutique, is a lot more. One reason you were looking to buy a business is because you have to get stuff in the business, and everything from the light bulb to the socks you have to pay for.
And you have to go out and source them all, and you have to be approved by all the vendors, and you have to have this budget. And with me using the inheritance that I received from my father, on top of money that I've made throughout the years, it's a lot of work to make mistakes. And buying a business, it's like kind of already set out for you. You just go in and you can decide, oh, if I want to continue using you as a vendor, or, you already have all the inventory. Because a lot of times too, we're opening up a boutique, most of these companies have a minimum. So
talk to us about that. So you have how many pieces in your store for sale approximately?
I have approximately 257 items in SKU right now. And we're still growing and still adding new SKUs every day.
And so for each of those SKUs, for people who are listening, you have to actually request it. They don't just show up in like a package of stuff. You have to hand select what you think you can actually make money on.
Yes. So it's a lot of research. It's a lot of talking to the consumers in the area to see like what they would like, but then you can't also just go off of what they would like, because they may come here this one time but not return, and now you have bought the minimum of 15 pieces for this selection. So every day it's sourcing, it's budgeting, and it's not for the faint of heart at all. It's an all day. Even when the doors close at 5, I can be up to 11 midnight sourcing, because I want to bring in the best products for my boutique.
And they are gorgeous. And anyone watching needs to go to a JanuaryLove.com because the pieces that you have selected are beautiful. It's just a lot of work. The ROI, is that what you were expecting?
Oh, yes. Yes.
You, because of your background as a business manager, probably had a better idea of looking at something and say, okay, what is the profit margin here and how many of them can I sell, right?
Yes.
Talk to us about figuring out the ROI to make it worth it for you, because you could do anything. So this children's boutique better work.
Oh, yeah, and it's going to. So one thing that I will say I have been blessed with is I have been able to pay my rent and all my utilities from my first month of opening up the business.
That's incredible.
Yes.
So you were from day one net positive. If someone wants to start a smallish boutique, what would you say the minimum capital they need to just open the door would be?
It depends on the size as well, but I would say minimum you need at least $15,000 because more than likely you will want to get your space how you would like it, and contractors cost a lot.
It's much more than you think they do.
Yes.
Much more than they say they will.
Yes, and it's going to take
That's
way
why your
longer
kids was up in there making them shells.
Yep. And they're going to take longer than they say. You need definitely to have your inventory. All the time, it's not the big pieces. You need the small knickknacks that bring in a lot of money as well.
Well, so that's interesting because when you say clothing boutiques, you're not just a clothing boutique. No. Would you say that the art supplies, the toys, the books, how much percentage of your of the income are by non-clothing items?
About 40%.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so with children, people always want gifts. So we're constantly adding new toys, new books, small gifts, small things at the counter, because that will change over way faster than clothes, except for babies. Babies are actually our number one, and then toys and books. And
then low down the row is the raggedy toddlers all tearing up their clothes.
Yeah, they're right there. No, way down is big kids. Yeah.
Do you also carry big kids as well?
Yeah, so we go up to size 10, but learning my demographics and area, I'm now saying, oh, well, I don't need as many big kids clothes because, I constantly pull reports. Yeah.
What is pulling reports?
So when you pull your reports, I have a POS system, which is...
Point of sale.
Yep, your point of sale system. And it keeps up with all your transactions. You put in how much you pay for everything and what your profit would be. And so your reports is a breakdown of... You can choose whatever you want the breakdown to be. So you can put it what items did I sell the most of, what category sold the most, what sizes. So I pull... all of my reports often to know, I need to bring in more toys because these have been selling the most, or my clock game has outsold my teddy bear game, so let me bring in more clocks. So
that's a really important of being an entrepreneur. In the same way that when you're looking for a school for your kid, you're just what are the graphics? What are the test scores? Is it fair? Is it diverse? You also have to look at your business like that too, because I think a lot of people just think I'm going to build it and we'll see what happens. But you're looking at this from a very logistical and analytical perspective to keep the business growing.
Yes, I pull all my reports from there. I go on to my Google business dashboard and see how many people click my business. Well, how many actually used the phone number? How many came in? I go on Google Trends to see, what are people Googling in the Dunwoody, Sandy Springs area?
What are they Googling? What's specific to there?
Well, right now it's all about golf. So everybody right now is Googling about the golf tournament that's coming. So then I know, next year around this time, I need to bring in golf products for babies.
Which means that not next year, this time, 4 months ago.
Well, yes, because that's something that I also learned starting a boutique. Oh, no, you shop 2 seasons, 3 seasons in advance. So, you have to learn all the trends of shopping and that you always have to be thinking next year, not currently. So that was a big thing for me because I opened up in October, but everyone else had already bought the inventory.
For Christmas.
Yes.
And so you're kind of at this point doing a great job of strategically playing catch up, but it's catch up nonetheless.
Definitely ketchup. But like I was doing ketchup. I still do ketchup because people were already buying for January 2023 in October. They had already made their selections. So I'm coming in and I'm like meeting with the vendors, having to put my best foot forth because I want the best of what you have left in the sizes that I need.
Is it a hustle like that? If they like you, do they give you the stuff?
Yeah, or they'll just send you away like, oh yeah, you can come back, or they'll not send you away, but it's like, oh, well, we're not selling for right now anymore. We're on to 2024.
Wow. But you with your Southern charm were able to get them.
Yeah, because I will harass you.
Well, that's a mompreneur trait. Harassment.
Yeah.
One thing that we forgot to touch on, which I think is absolutely beautiful, is the name of your boutique. Why is your boutique called A January Love?
Okay, so in honor of my wonderful father, he was born in January, and my maiden name is Love. So I put those two together, A January Love, because he was my love that was born in January.
What do you think he's saying as he watches you embark upon this incredible journey right now?
Oh, he is happy. Because my dad loved to brag on me. So I know he is still up there bragging about all my achievements. He's still bragging about like how well the kids are doing. He's happy.
Well, speaking of the kids, I'm sure he is happy because on top of this, another element of your mompreneurship is momager, right?
Yes, our 10-year-old. Can't give out all the deets yet, but he is right now actually in the studio completing his albums. He has children albums that will be released very soon.
Which is so incredible. And what is it, what does it say to mothers who worry that the motherhood aspect of their life will supersede the business person? Do you think that there's advice you can give to women in your situation who are homemakers first? We are wives and mothers first, if we're fortunate enough to be, right? But what advice do you have for someone who's trying to grapple with, I need to take time for myself, I need to do something for me too?
So that was very hard for me, honestly, to learn at first, because in my mind, I always thought like, oh, there could be balance. And I'm to say, I mean, people may disagree with me, but there is no real balance. Like, every day you just have to like remind your kids that you love them. And
even if I don't see you until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, or you bring them onto your journey. So that has been the easiest thing for me. Like, I make my kids a part of my journey. I tell like new mothers, like, I no longer build my life around my kids. My kids have to build their life around me. So, with that being said, if you can come to work with me, and I will give you all the attention in between these customers. But then when it's time to get to work, it's time to get to work. You can come with us on work trips when we're doing stuff for daddy, and you have to be quiet. And then when it's time for us to go hang out, you can be loud, silly, whatever. But, I mean, I feel like it's also just a trait that they need to learn for life anyway. Like, every time in life, it's not always going to be about you.
I think that's so freeing, and I appreciate that. I was talking with another mompreneur and how it feels taboo to say that I'm putting myself before my children. But is it really?
No, I feel like if your children don't see that you're just as important to yourself as they are, that they will grow up with this misconstrued view of life. Like, we always tell our kids, you are important to us, but you're not that important to the world. So we will do everything for you, but the world is not. And so, but what do they always say? Children learn from not what you say, but what you do. And I just feel like that will help them in life. Like, it makes them more empathetic to other people in their situations and what they're going through, because it's not always, well, I feel this and I want to do this. It's not always about you. And if you want a happy, healthy mom and dad in the same house, we have to take time out for ourselves together and individually.
It's good for them to see.
Yeah.
They have a role model that is actually achievable versus a fake polished version.
Yeah, that they would never be able to live up to. Like, it's so many times that I've seen, like, kids get older and they don't know like that their life was a whole facade, and now they can't put it in their mind of, well, what was really going on.
That's really interesting.
So no, I don't want to have my kids at that disadvantage.
You have been an integral part of the success of your entire family, the happiness of your elders, just being a role model now, going after your dreams. What's next? Because you've done so much already. Everyone is doing well. Everything is going great. Do you have future goals for yourself and your family as a mompreneur?
Oh, yes. I mean, my mind is always going. I have a whole book of new ventures.
A literal book?
A literal book, yes. I am a lover of
Vada's
journals.
big book of little adventures?
Yes. I want to come out with books. I want to make my business mobile. I have children who all have different aspirations, and I want to, if I have to be their bank, I want to be my children's bank as well, to help them
that's how
build
it
their
gets to
businesses.
Going. That's the fortune of it. That's what the whole point of what you did when your husband was in his apartment and couldn't drive. The goal was to be able to provide financial freedom for this point. Are you proud of yourself?
Oh, yes. I give myself a pat on the back all the time.
You are the goal.
Yeah. So, just continue to create businesses, continue to uplift my children to follow their dreams. And because, after you put in all this work, I wouldn't want it to end with my husband and I. What if my children don't want to follow the same steps that my husband and I have? They need to have the knowledge to continue to, grow and to create businesses, even if they don't want to do a business. A business isn't for everyone.
But the business can sustain, even if it's not for you. My father grew up dirt poor in Southern Virginia, married my mother. He became an entrepreneur. When he died, she took over. Yeah. And she told me, she was like, this business is here for you. And it's because your father always said, I want to insulate my children from racism. And of course, as that's expanded, racism, classism, all the isms, right? Yeah. And that's what you all have done. And it's incredibly impressive. And we just can't wait to see what else is going to happen.
Thank you. Yeah, that was definitely learned from my grandfather as well. He started a business, and when he passed, my uncles were able to take over the business. And then, when my dad passed, I didn't choose to go into the business that he left behind, but my dad also left behind rental property. So even if that's still something that I could pass on to my children as well. So it's all about generational wealth and just giving my children the education on how they can continue on with what my husband and I have started.
It's absolutely incredible. So thank you for sharing your wisdom, your advice for people who want to either stand by their partner and make it together, start their own boutique, or do a host of different things. For more information, visit ajanuarylove.com and follow Vada on Instagram at Vada Love. We appreciate you being here with us on another episode of Mompreneurs. Watch on MadameNoire.com and listen and follow Mompreneurs wherever you get your podcasts and at urbanonepodcast.com.